Hello and welcome to the Hunting Unicorns Project. My name is Damian Shipley Marshall, and at long last, we're finally putting together our fourth, possibly final tutorial on using generative AI to tell your story on the Hunting Unicorns platform. There's been a little bit of a time gap in between the two videos. I'll be doing a little bit. I'll be doing another news update video to kind of update everybody on what's been going on behind the scenes. There's been a few things that have delayed us working on the Hunting Unicorns project for the past couple of months. But for the most part, just to do a real quick recap, what we've been exploring is this idea on how our participants can use generative AI to have more creative control over their stories as they participate with the platform. We were very interested to see how generative AI could help and give tools to people who have not had the opportunity to be trained in either visual arts or media arts, just to see if this could give them the kind of creative control that they wanted in telling their stories. And we looked at a few programs. We left off with talking about the fact that we had started a license with Runway, which is it has a lot of tools, but it has text to image and text to video, so things that we can use in the production of Hunting Unicorns. If you're interested to see how that might look like, that was the stuff that we used in creating the Hildegard of Bingham piece that is in our story section. But where we left off was we were going to look at how we could possibly train models using Runway in order to more customize the results to what we want with the program, and to also see if we can sort of ethically navigate some of the issues that come about when you're using a generative model and you don't have a lot of control, or you don't understand how the modeling data is being selected and used. So as I've started looking into a little bit more on what you can do within Runway itself and how people go about usually training their models, what I've started to discover is that this is going to be a much more communal project than I originally thought. So number one, the images that we're using in order to generate our models. These are going to have to be things that I think are given to us through the community, and it's going to be things that we're training in tight association with the community. So I'm not exactly 100% sure on how that is going to look just yet, but we're going to go through some options that we have, some things that I know about we can do. And again, if you're a member of the community and you want to talk a little bit more about how we can do more with training our models, and if there's better ways to do that than some of the things that I'm going to be talking about in that video, please get in touch. So one of the major problems that I've discovered with Project Runway is, again, it seems as though like the AI training model is mostly used for very, very specific sorts of projects. It's not something where we can actually use it to, I guess, kind of usurp some of the data that's coming in from Project Runway so much. It's really, from what I've seen, it's really a way for people to get a better product, not necessarily kind of just exclude the stuff that you don't necessarily want. So one of the problems with this is if you're going to train a model with Runway, you do get one free one if you do the standard package, which is what we have. But the other problem is you actually have to spend money in order to train a model. And when people are training a model, what they're usually doing is like, okay, so this is what we are calling a specific character, or when we say we want like a certain kind of photo, these are sample sets of the photos that we want. And of course, all of those photos, idealistically speaking, would be things that you personally can use. But even with that, it does seem as though the generator's original data set still comes in there to kind of influence it. So because I don't necessarily want to waste our credits on a demo that we're not necessarily going to work, because again, that's 1,000 credits, just to give you like a little bit of an indication. We earn about 640 credits a month with the license that we have right now. So training a lot of models is going to start getting very expensive very quickly if we're doing that through Runway. But just to give you a little bit of an idea on how this works, and I'll leave a link to this video. This is just something that Project Runway has itself as part of its Runway Academy. So what this person is doing is, I believe this is Ian from Runway, and he's showing us how we can generate images based on a character. So we have three options when we create a model. We can create it based around a character, we can create it based around an object, and we can create it based around a style. So he's choosing character, and as you can see, he's using a bunch of images that he has selected. They recommend of using about 15 different contexts, different lighting, different directions, and making sure that the same subject is in every video. And like I said, there's some varieties with the different poses, the different lighting, but that the subject be the only one in there. And I believe he gives some kind of tips on things that you want to use. So we're going to create a model that's based around this. So about 15 images to train. You want the subject to be in focus, different context and lighting, and you also want only the subject to be in that photo. So this is the tool that we're going to be using, which is just going to, in this case, the portrait generator, character generator as it's now called, because this was about a year ago. You're going to upload the images, train them. The one thing that I've seen from some of the other research that I've been looking at is he's just done this as the Ian one. I've been told it's a really good idea to make sure that you're not including any kind of words that could also appear within just a normal prompt. So he's uploaded those, he's generated them, and as you can see, this process is very easy to do. Once that's done, you can see you start getting a bunch of different portraits, and just right off the bat, this is obviously information that's taken from Runway's other models. Which he's using this as part of his Twitter page. That's great. But yeah, so essentially every time you go into another sort of generative session, you can use this model that's been trained off of the data that you fed into it. And it usually has to be very specific. So it's just something to be aware of. Now, where this is going to be more beneficial to us is in those instances where you're trying to create a moving image that's around a single character. What happens is every time a new bit of data is being generated, so your character, the background around them, is constantly being regenerated. So what that does is it's very hard to keep a consistent character all the way through that. So training this character model would be a way to potentially do that. So for example, if you were working with us and you wanted to have the same character going through an AI sort of setting with a similar sort of style, what we would do is we would train two different models on the character and the style to where you'd get a more consistent flow throughout your project. There's still going to be some things that can change, but that's more or less how it's done. So in this particular case, he's just creating an image of he wants a professional black and white photo to show for like a professional headshot sort of thing. And those are the results, which are pretty good based off of the other character thing. I would still say that looks a little, that looks a little AI-y, but you can see that's how it would work. And this is also something that could work in the videos as well. In particular, we can also make different scenes from images and edit those together by uploading image and going with the image to video sort of thing. So those are the options that we have within Runway itself. So those are things that, as I said, we're going to have to pay money in order to create multiple models. It's something that we're willing to do, but of course that's going to start getting expensive really quick if we start really taking off with people who want to work with that. Now, of course, this is something that you can do on your own. I, again, am very new to all of this, but from what I understand, actually training a model requires a lot of computing power and it requires a lot of time. And from what I understand, it's actually a bunch of computers that are working in unison with each other. So obviously we don't have the infrastructure in order to do all of that. But just to kind of make people aware of this little thing I found, if you go to Google collabresearch.google.com, I'll leave a link in the description. And if you come down here to GitHub, I'm just going to, I don't think this requires a login. This might be for the paid part of this, which the free version should be okay. And copy in this URL, which again, I will leave a link in the description. This is just the last Ben fast stable diffusion. Search for that. You're going to want to come down to this thing that is called the Dream Booth. And this is something where you're going to be able to collaborate with, this is something where you're going to be able to use this collaborative system to where you can generate your own models. Of course, you would also have to be working within this page. So the best way to probably do this with what we're talking about with videos is to create your own images that can then be put into the runway, which can be turned into videos based on prompts, as we've talked about before. I haven't had an opportunity to play around with this too much because I don't actually have any images to put together because, again, we're looking at building our community and figuring out how we want to approach this. I have been told, however, you want to use the version 2 model. And again, I'll leave a link to, I think I still have the tutorial that I used to find this in the first place. But yeah, so this is where you're going to create the name for your session. This is also where you're going to be uploading your images. This one's a little bit more complicated. I think what you have to do is you have to give the address for your image folder on your computer and upload them from there. There's some instructions on how you can do that. You can use your training steps. If you've got any number that you're using to train the models, you want to times it by 100. So in the case of where you've got like about 15 images to train your model, you're going to want to change that to about 15,000 steps. I believe that's the only thing that you really have to change, and then you just upload your model and run it from there. Like I said, I haven't had too much of an opportunity to work with a lot of this stuff. I'll leave a link to the tutorial in the description, but these are the sort of things that we're looking at in training our own models. So, as I said at the beginning, I'm very new at this. And it seems like the best way for us to approach this is to make it much more collaborative. So this is something where I'm going to be wanting to work with people on how we can actually train our own models. There might be some other things that we can do with as far as, you know, the GitHub thing and stuff like that is concerned. Okay, so I think that's where I'm going to leave the AI tutorial series for now. I hope you found it useful. Really, it's just kind of been me exploring around some possibilities and kind of reporting back some things that we can do. We do have the subscription to Runway, which you can take advantage of if you want to work with us. And as far as training the models, I think where AI is really going to become interesting and really be powerful in this kind of context is if we're all working together in order to build these models, whether we're doing that through Runway or something like Google Colab. I think that's really where the benefit is going to be, of us just coming together, generating the models that we want to use for our images. There's a lot of other things that we can potentially do, such as upscaling and, you know, going from image to image, using some Photoshop afterwards in order to make these things work a lot better for us. But yeah, I think where we're kind of leaving this is there's a lot of possibility and a lot of potential. And if you're somebody who's a little bit more familiar with training AI for specific purposes, again, we'd also love to talk with you. We'd love to work with you. Just please feel free to get in touch with us on our website. I think at this point, we're just going to kind of leave it as an open call of we want people to participate with us in looking at AI, but again, that's just something that's going to have to involve a community, I think. Where we're going to be going from this, like I said, I'm going to be doing an update video a little bit later in the day, but fundamentally, I'm going to be doubling down on looking at how I can create some more kind of animation processes that I think are going to open up the creative potential for hunting unicorns and talking about how you can participate in that. So thank you very much for coming with me on this journey, and look forward to working with you in the future. Thanks a lot.